Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Well, today I've got the new Fat Quarter Shop Designer Mystery Block of the Month to share with you guys for 2025. And I had a hard time resisting this one, and obviously I didn't resist it because I gave in. I really love their designer mysteries, and I've done them in the past, but I didn't do last year's because I had too many projects going on. Well, I still have too many projects going on, but I couldn't resist this year's because it is with Corey Yoder's fabric. And if you have been following me for any length of time, you know how much I love Corey's fabric. She's actually an Ohio gal like me. I've met her several times. Great person. And her style is just, I love her fabrics. So when I saw that they were having this year's designer mystery was with her fabrics, I had to get it. So block one just arrived, and this is what block one is going to look like. I'm going to show you guys the fabrics really quick, and then I'm going to go starch them and cut them, and then we'll sew them together. How about that? So really quick, this is one of the fabrics. Gorgeous. Another one of her fabrics. And these will all be her fabrics, and each month the block will be designed by a different Moda designer. And of course, the very first month is Corey's, which I'm really excited about because her style and my style is very similar. So those are all the fabrics from month one. There's other colors and other patterns that will be mixed in throughout this whole quilt. It'll last a year. Unfortunately, though, it is sold out. So if you didn't get this, you missed out, and I'm really sorry. You could keep checking, and it does. There is a button I noticed today where it says notify me when available. So maybe they'll get more. I'm not sure. But if you are interested in this and would like to see and you haven't received it, go ahead and check that out. I'll put the link down below. I also got the backing fabric. I set it over here. So this line did not have a 108 included in it. As you guys know, I sell Moda fabric, and I did purchase a little bit of this fabric, but this line did not have a 108. But Fat Quarter Shop, because they have so much pull with Moda, they were able to take one of Corey's fabrics, this one right here, and get it turned into a 108. So of course I had to buy the backing fabric as well, because I'm a long arm quilter, and if you are a long arm quilter, you know how much easier it is to quilt with a 108. So I went ahead and got the backing fabric. So that's what that looks like, and it's gorgeous. All right, so I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna go starch my fabrics. Best pressed, actually, for those of you who might want to know what I actually use. And then I'm going to cut everything and come back and we'll sew this together. So let's get started. All right, well, I'm back. I've got all my pieces starched and cut. Ooh, I'm throwing them on the floor. And again, this is block one. I'm going to walk you step by step through these instructions, and we're going to sew this together. So I'm going to disappear off the screen so you can see what I'm doing. All right, let's get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my booklet here, and all the cuts are on the side over here. We're going to flip that out of the way, and we're going to grab our A, C, and D squares. So that is these guys right here. I pulled them all out, and we're going to cut these into 4 pieces. So we're going to cut them diagonally both ways. And what I'm actually going to do to save just a little bit of time is I'm going to stack them up. So I'm going to take some time and make sure they're all stacked up nicely here. And we're going to cut them diagonally both directions to get 4 triangles. And these are oversized a bit, so we'll have room to trim, which is nice. I like sewing that way because then you get more perfect blocks. So I'm going to line this up. And we're going to cut them that way. And then we're going to cut them the opposite direction. If I cut through all the layers, yep, I should have all my triangles. So that's ready to go. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to line these up to make hourglass blocks. So I'm just going to put these how they're going to end up looking when we're done. So that way I know that I'm sewing them the correct way. And you need 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 8 of these all together. And then I have some more green triangles that I cut. You'll have double the amount of green as you do of the orange and the background, because those obviously have more pieces. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and sew these. And I'm going to grab one pile at a time. We're going to flip these on top and we're going to sew the background to the green. But what I'm going to do, so that I'm not putting the pointed end underneath my sewing machine, is I'm going to flip them the opposite direction. So the green will be on the top. So I'm starting with the flat side of the triangle. I hope that makes sense, instead of the pointed, because some machines can suck these little points down in. So if you turn your triangles to the flat side, you'll have better success. Now my machine is pretty good. It's a single hole machine because it's a straight stitch only. So I don't usually have that issue, but I just wanted to share that tip with you guys, because that definitely helps if you find your machine sucking fabric down into the machine. Also, if you have that problem, if you use a little piece of scrap fabric to start called a leader, that can help as well. But turning your triangles from the point to the flat side to sew definitely makes a difference. So just wanted to give you guys that little tip. We're just going to chain piece all of these, and I'm going to do the same with this pile here. And you're going to make, like I said, 8 of these little hourglass units all together. I've already made a few just to make the time go faster. But I wanted to do a few with you guys so you could see how they're made. And I wanted to give you that little tip about the triangle. So the same thing, the green are going to flip onto the orange, and I'm going to sew them with the green on top so I can put that flat side through my machine. Now, when we start building these hourglass units, there's green matched up with the orange, and there's green matched up with the background, the white. And the way to make them fit together best, so you can match up your centers, is to press everything towards the green. So we're going to press these before we put the hourglasses together, and we're going to press everything towards the green. So they'll nest up really nice in the middle, and you'll get nice seams that match up. All right, so I've got all of those sewn. I'm going to snip these apart. You will have more than this because, like I said, I've already sewn a couple of these just to save a little bit of time. But I'm going to finger press these towards the green, and then I'm going to also press them with my iron. I just like to kind of make the fabric go where I want it before I try to iron. So we're going to press those towards the green, and also these ones towards the green. So that way, when we fit them together, those greens are going in opposite direction, and those seams will nest really, really well there in the middle, and you'll have like a really nice, sharp looking block. All right, I'm going to finish pressing these, and then I'll be back and we'll sew these hourglass units together. Okay, as you can see, I've got all my pieces pressed. I pressed everything towards the green, as I mentioned. Now we're going to just join these together to make our hourglass block look like that. And after we join these together, all 8 of them, then we're going to trim them to 3.5 inches square. So my tip for this time around is I don't know about you guys, but I am not a pinner, and I do not pin because I don't like to bleed on my fabric. I tend to poke myself a lot when I pin, so I tend to not be a pinner. But this can also happen if you're a pinner. So if we're going to sew these, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch down this long seam. And sometimes you want these to meet right in the middle. And sometimes your fabric can shift by the time you get to the middle, and it can be just slightly off. So here's a little trick for you guys. What you can do is take your piece to your sewing machine, make sure they're all nested up there in the center, which mine is right now. I can put it under my sewing machine right in the middle, and then take a few stitches over that center, and then open it up to make sure everything's nested, which it looks like it is, and then start at the end and just sew right over those stitches again, or go from one end to the other and just sew right over the stitches that you initially put in there. That's just a little hint for you guys if you are sort of an OCD perfectionist like me and like yours seems to come out as perfect as possible. And there we have all 4 seams matching up right in the center, so that came out really well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finger press this, and I'm going to press towards the darker fabric away from the light, or you can press these open, whichever you like. It doesn't matter. I typically don't press things open. I will make an exception in the next step, but we'll talk about that when we get to that step. So I'm going to go ahead and press these. I've already finished the other ones and pressed them, and they all came out really nicely. So I'm just going to go take this and press it, and we'll be back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, I've got my square pressed. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to trim this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, we're trimming these to 3.5 inches, and I'm going to put my diagonal line right on one of the seams, and I'm going to find the middle of 3.5 inches, which is 1 3/4. So I'm going to find the 1 3/4 mark. Take your time so you can get these right. Put that right in the middle, and I'm going to trim 2 sides. And then we're going to turn this around and we're going to trim the other 2 sides. And if I did this correctly, the square should end up 3.5 inches, and then the second time around it should be easier to find the center. Oop. All right, there we go. So through the magic of TV, I've got my other ones finished. Let me close that blade. And the next step is to sew all your pieces together, and they have you pressing, it shows both directions, so I think that means to press out. It's not printed though. Or that could be a sewing direction, I'm not sure. But we're making 4 sets of these. And now I just said in the last step that I don't typically press out, or press open, I should say. But here's one that I already made, and I actually did press that center seam open because I think that's going to get really bulky. I look at everything from the standpoint of long arm quilting because I'm a long arm quilter, and I try to eliminate bulk where I can. I don't usually like to press open because I don't feel like the seams are as sturdy, but every now and again I feel like it's necessary, and I thought it was necessary for those. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew these together. So sew 4 pair of these, and then we're gonna press it. And you don't have to press it open if you don't like. Like I said, do whatever makes you happy. But I'm gonna go ahead and press mine open. So I'm going to show you a trick here. First off, to get really crisp seams, I like to use the Acorn Easy Press Precision Piecing Pen. I just put that right on the seam. And for pressing open, what I like to do is I like to press it one way first. I know that sounds strange, but it seems to press a bit better if I do that. And then I turn it over, and then I press the other seam back in place. And that seems to work for me. There we go. All right, so there's that piece. And I've got, through the magic of TV, my other pieces made. And so the next step, this is actually not the next printed step, but as you can see here in the final assembly, we have 4 of these pieces and 2 of them need to get the B background squares. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now just to eliminate a step later on. So I've got 3 of these and 1 I've already added the background squares to. So I'm going to pick 1 more and add our B pieces, and then we'll have all these pieces ready to go when we're ready to assemble the blocks. I'm going to set those ones aside, set this one aside, and then add these background squares to this piece that we just made. I think it's just easy to do now and it'll save us a little bit of time. I'm just going to finger press that. They're showing to press it out, so that's what I'm going to do. It'll just save us a little bit of time at the end when we're ready to assemble the whole block. All right. So I'm going to give that a press, and then we will move on to the center of the block. So here are all the pieces we have made so far. These are the outside pieces of our block. So I'm going to set that aside. And these are the pieces that we have left. So these small squares, we're going to set these aside for now. We'll need those in a little bit. We're building the center of our block right now. We're going to take these 2 squares of the same size, and I'm going to lay those on top because once again, we're going to cut these corner to corner, both directions. So I'm going to start with that. So you should have 4 pieces there of both of those colors. And then we have 2 of a block that is one a little bit smaller than the square that we just cut. 2 squares, I should say, that are smaller than the squares we just cut. And those 2 are just going to get cut once diagonally. We're doing sort of another hourglass, but oops, it would help if I open my rotary cutter. But not the same exact type. We're doing one with 3 pieces instead of 4. So, all right. So now how this is going to go, we're going to be making 4 of these to make our center part of this block. And I'm going to lay these out just like I laid out the other hourglass block, so we know exactly how to sew them together. So we're going to end up sewing this white print to the orange print first, and then we're going to take that whole piece, press them towards the dark, and then sew that piece onto this larger piece. So I'm going to chain piece these just like I did before. And again, I'm going to make sure that when I piece them, I piece with that flat edge against my machine instead of the corners. Now, if you know for sure that your machine's not going to suck those down into your machine, go ahead and start at the corners. But I just find I get better results if I start this way. And as soon as I get done piecing these together, I'm going to cut them apart and do my pressing. slits here. And I'm going to cut them all apart, but I'm just going to show you this one. And I'm going to go ahead and finger press and press towards the darker fabric. So I'm going to cut the rest of these apart. I'm going to go press them with the iron, and then we'll come back and we'll sew these pieces together. Okay, now that we've got all of our pieces pressed, we're going to join these together. I'm going to put this on top, and I'm going to try to make sure the point is sort of lined up with the seam here as close as I can. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect because we are going to trim these down. So let's go ahead and sew this together. And these ones don't have a seam to match in the middle, so you can just sew them right on. And usually I press towards the colored or the darker fabric, but this time I'm going to press towards the white fabric, the solid, more solid piece, because that's one piece versus two, so this should lay a little bit nicer. So I'm going to grab that, give it some magic juice, and give this a press. Now you're going to have 4 pieces. I've already done the other 3 ahead of time just to save a little bit of time. Okay, and then we're going to trim this down. Now these ones trim down to 2.5 inches. So I'm going to grab my ruler, put that on the diagonal, and find the center. The center of these is 1 1/4 inch, since these are 2.5 inch pieces. I'm just trimming little bits off of this one. Line up the other side. And there we go. Got our 2.5 inch squares. So make all 4 of these the same way. Got some here. And the first thing you're going to want to do is close your rotary cutter. You're going to take 2 of these and sew your orange squares, your orange 2.5 squares, to the side of one of those. I'm going to lay this out here so you can see it. I've already done one just to save a little bit of time, like that. And then we've got our center square that's 2.5 inches, and we're going to lay these guys out like that. So hopefully you can start to see that star forming in the center. So I'm going to sew these together, sew these together. I press these out, so I'll press the center in when I get to that point. But let's go ahead and sew these together first. This is going to be a really pretty block. I'm loving this fabric. So I'm going to finger press this out for now and add the other side. Same thing, I'm going to finger press that out. Oh, like that, out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and do my center. Get that open here, and I'm going to finger press this one in, so that way when we put this together, these are out and this will be in, so everything nests really well. All right, so I'm going to take these and I'm going to press them, and then I'm going to start sewing the rows together. So let's do that next. I've got these all pressed. Now I'm going to sew these together. And again, I'm not a pinner, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my row, and then I'm going to nest these up, and then I kind of keep my finger right on those threads as long as I can to hold them together. Same thing here now that I've gotten past that one. Okay, let's open that up and see how we did. Now, if you don't trust yourself to move your finger in time, you might want to go ahead and pin there. And I'm just going to do the other side. That one came out pretty good. And then they are recommending that you press the rows, the top one up and the bottom one down. So we're going to go ahead and follow their pressing instructions, because if they're giving us pressing instructions, then it probably is helpful in putting the final block together. Again, I'm going to start my row. I'm going to stop my needle down in my fabric. If you have a needle down function on your machine, that is the best invention. And then I'm just going to nest these up, and I'm going to hold them. I've been sewing for a really long time, so I feel very comfortable getting very close to my needle. But definitely don't do that if you're not comfortable. I don't want you to run over your fingers. All right, let's check that out. Perfect. All right, so we've got our nice little star there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this with my iron. She's going to need a good press so we can get this block together really nicely. I'm going to add my magic juice first. If you don't know what magic juice is, it's Acorn Precision Piecing Solution, and basically it's a starch alternative but concentrated, and you just put it right on the seams and it helps make your block nice and flat. And I just love it. I started using it many years ago. Before it was really popular in the States. I bought it from Canada. Luckily now you can get it in the US. And I just like the way my blocks turn out when I use it. So, alright, so that is our center. That looks awesome. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the pieces we made at the beginning, and we're going to add those to the sides. And then after we finish that, we're going to add the ones with the background squares that have been added to the top and bottom, and that's going to be our block. Isn't that gorgeous? Alright, so let's go ahead and add those side pieces first. And there are pressing instructions for this. It looks like we're going to press these in towards the center, because these we pressed out, if you remember. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Line up my block here. The good news is that there's really no seams to line up here at the end. And because I pressed these centers open, it's laying nice and flat, which I really like. So I'm just going to finger press this. It's not going to want to go this way necessarily because you have these 2 points here. You're going to kind of have to make it. So I'm kind of forcing it to go that way. That's why I'm finger pressing it. And then, of course, we'll use the magic juice and the iron to make it really nice and flat. And make sure that the white fabric is on the outside, or you'll have to use your seam ripper and fix that. Okay. And they definitely don't want to go in because of those points in the stars. So you're going to have to really encourage it. So we're going to get the iron now. And I'm going to give this some magic juice, especially by those points. And we're going to make this fabric bend to our will. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the seam from the back. I don't always do that, but when you have a little bit of bulkiness like right by the points, and the fabric doesn't tend to want to go that way. Sometimes setting that seam will help that. There we go. Now it's going where it wants. We want it to, instead of where it wants to go. That's looking really beautiful. Still being stubborn right there, so you just give it an extra little bit of pressing. All right. Now all we have to do is add that top and bottom row. We're almost there. This is looking really nice. Now, since we pressed these out and we press this in, these pieces should nest up in those seams really well. And again, those are the only two seams you have to match up. So you take a few stitches, line this up. You can really feel where those threads kind of kiss each other, for lack of a better term. We call that nesting. And then I'm going to line this up down here. There's nothing else to line up until we get to the seam. And let's see how we did here. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so we're going to press that out. And the same thing with this one, it'll be pressed out after we rejoin this. The thing I like about these block of the months is that it doesn't feel like such a big project because we're doing one block at a time. And this block was really fun. It didn't take that long to make. Great way to start this project. The only downside to a block of the month like this is it will take a year to finish this. But that's okay. It's going to be worth it because I think this is going to be a gorgeous quilt. Okay, so I'm going to press this block and I'll come back and show it to you all finished, but there we are. Well, thanks for joining me today to sew up the Designer Mystery Block 1 for 2005. That is absolutely gorgeous. This is called Clear Sky, so this is the Clear Sky block. And here's the instructions again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop to the craft shop and I'm going to grab probably Michael's, because that's, I think, probably the only one left around me, or Hobby Lobby or something like that, and grab a bin to put this project in so I can keep everything organized and all together. I did look around my house to see if I had a bin available, but they all have other projects in them. So I'm going to find one that's a little bit bigger than 12.5 inches square, maybe 14 inches, since these are 12.5 inch blocks. And I'm going to put this and the pattern right with it, just in case. You never know. I had a friend of mine recently, we're working on a project together, and we're doing a block of the month, and her block 1 is completely missing. And so I don't want that to happen, but just in case, I'm going to save all my instructions to the end. And I have a feeling with the amount of scrap that I had left over from this month, that we'll have scrap from every month. So if you have an accident, you make a mistake, or if for some reason a block goes missing, we should have enough to finish it as long as you keep the instructions. So I'm going to find a bin and put these together, and next month I will show you guys how I did that, and then I'll be back to sew block 2. That was so much fun. I love this fabric. So thanks for sewing along with me. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'd love to see your progress. I have a Facebook group that is private, Together We Sew Quilting. So if you'd like to join that and post some pictures, I'd love to see it. And that is in the description box below this video. I'll be coming to you soon with another block of the month from Stitching Heaven called Make It Merry. So I hope you'll join me here, right here on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button, and also ring the bell for notifications so you'll know when I'm live or when I post other videos. So thank you so much for sewing with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye! Happy stitching!